Welcome to Business as Unusual. This is the live stream, although today's session is recorded, but we're still going to explore the most pressing issues and emerging trends that are shaping the business landscape. So we're going to start in a few minutes, but I'm going to introduce myself. I am Kathy Steele, and I'm the CEO of Red Caffeine, and I'm your host today. And for those of you that are not familiar with Red Caffeine, we're growth consultancy. And so we build and execute go-to-market plans for ambitious mid-market companies. Our service offering includes a fractional team led by a senior level marketing leader that enables a business to scale up rapidly without hiring a wide range of full-time staff members. And today we're talking about something that is really fun, improv. And so I love sales, but I think we've all been in those situations, or we've walked into a new networking opportunity, and it's still hard, even if you're a very seasoned person in a sales situation. The other thing is it's really unpredictable. And I recall last year where I had a meeting with my team at a prospect, and it was starting to go south. And I didn't even realize how to jump in and help a struggling team member. So I'm really excited to dig in and learn more about how improv can play a role in sales with my fun co-host, Tom Latteray, and our thrilling guest today, Erin Diehl. So I want to kick off with having Erin give a short intro to herself and her company. And then Erin, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you an icebreaker. Tell us a little bit of something fun that's not on the bio.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, Kathy, thank you for being here. Tom, it's so exciting to be able to be here with you too. And Kathy, I know we've known each other from earlier in 2020, but to be able to sit here today with both of you and play is awesome.
Yeah.
I am Erin Diehl, and I'm a self-proclaimed fail-fluencer. It's not an influencer. It's a person who believes in failing forward and failing fast. I am the CEO or the Chief Edutainment Officer of Improve It, and we are an improv-infused talent development company for the new generation of work. We are also a top 1% global podcast. So we have a podcast called the Improve It Podcast as well. And I'm also a wife and a mom to a two-legged and a four-legged child. The four-legged child's name is Big Deal, and he's an 8-pound toy
Oh,
poodle.
how clever. Love
That's
it.
not in, that is in my bio. One thing not in my bio. This is my fun fact I always share. I was a contestant on The Price is Right, and
You're
I won.
kidding.
No, seriously, and I won
Poster?
a bird bath and 20 or 32 wine glasses. That was my prize. And I
What
did
game
not
did you play?
collect.
What game did you play?
Can I tell you this? This is so embarrassing. I don't even remember the game. I was the very last person called. I came on down. I did not make it to the stage. And at the time, I'd never even seen the show, but I was with my ex-boyfriend who loved the show, and they interview people before the show to come on as contestants, and he interviewed too. I was praying I didn't get chosen because I really didn't know the show or watch it. And then I got chosen and he didn't. So
Aaron, this will show Kathy and our age. Was it Bob Barker or Drew Carey?
it was Drew Carey, but I
Oh,
wished it was Bob
Oh,
Barker. I
yeah, right.
wished it was Bob.
new
So yeah.
too. Well, Drew's pretty cool too.
Yes.
Love
It
it.
was
That's so fascinating.
2007.
Oh,
2007.
Yeah,
wow. Gosh, I didn't even know Drew took over
yeah, that
it's like
early.
a
That's
long time
yeah,
ago
yeah.
too. So Tom, please give a short intro. We're thrilled to have you always be a co-host. Give a short intro and tell us a little bit.
With M3 Learning, we do sales management, coaching, and consulting. I've been blessed to know both Kathy and Aaron both folks for over 15 years. And I just love this conversation about how, our sales conversations and the communication skills we bring into those conversations, humans talking to other humans and not selling, but actually helping people solve their problems. I just love this conversation. So
Yeah.
thankful to be a part of it.
Well, thanks for hooking us all up. So, all right, let's jump in. So let's start at a high level, Erin, and just give us some ideas about, some of the ways that improv skill sets can play a role in sales or helping enable sales teams.
Yeah, I actually have a true story to share with you. It's mine about how how it changed my life. Okay, so the year is 2011. I am in a soul-sucking job. Like it literally sucked my soul. And I was doing anything to find another job. And it happened to be a recruiting company that I had done some temp work for in my earlier years, reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're hiring internally for a business development role." Never had I ever done recruiting, never had I ever done sales. And I started the job and I started doing improv at the same time. And when I started the job to when I finished the job 5 years later is completely different. It's a completely different human. Because as I started to really sink my teeth into improv at Second City and IO and the annoyance, I started really noticing everything I was doing on stage and my classes just spill over into my day to day. I was first and foremost a better listener. I was listening to my clients. That was always a skill. In my home, we talked over each other a lot. So it was a skill I needed to work on. I was also more empathetic. I thought more quickly in the moment. I also used this idea of give and take. So it wasn't necessarily just me sharing an idea and me taking ideas. It's this give and take that's so beautifully done in a beautiful improv scene. All of these things really spilled over into my day to day. And as I started to grow on the improv stage, I started to grow my numbers in sales. And not only was I creating clients, but I was creating relationships. I was creating friendships. And so when I left that recruiting job to start Improve It, the clients that I had at that recruiting job were my first clients
Oh, I
at
love it.
Improve It.
That's so fantastic.
There's an interesting quote when I was a young salesperson. I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, "People don't care how much you know
Yeah.
until they know how much you care."
Yes.
And I think what's fascinating about that is, we think as salespeople, our job is to inform and educate. When I think the improv skill is really that space of, I'm not talking at you, I'm actually creating a two-way conversation. Would you agree with that, Erin? Is that kind of what you're really you're trying to build upon the communication skills of the other person, right?
Yes, and I think the beginning of my career, I was showing up and throwing up. Here's
Yeah.
our offerings, here's what we can do. And even in Improve It now, but just as time grew with this recruiting firm and I started to really sink my teeth into improv, I started to make it about them versus me. And so we on a typical call for an Improve It discovery call. The first, it's a 30-minute call. 20 minutes is us taking in information from you, asking you questions, caring genuinely about your culture. What are the problems? What are the challenges? What are the objectives you're hoping to achieve? What hasn't worked? And then we'll tell you how we can help. But I always say I equate it to going to the doctor's office and you know how they just sit there and take notes for like the first 30 minutes and then you get your medicine. I always say that, like, I'm going to do an intake form with you. I need to hear from you. I need to pull information from you and then I can give you the prescription. And that, I think, especially being a soft skill service, we're a painkiller that way versus a vitamin.
Yeah. Boy, I love what you just said there. I think there's this interesting thing that happens. I think when we talk to salespeople, we'll go, "Hey, on a first call, what percentage of time should you be talking? What percentage of time should the customer be talking?" And everybody agrees, oh, the customer should be talking 80% of the time. But then the customer says something like, "Hey, I've only got 10 minutes. I've only got 15 minutes." And all of a sudden, that goes out the window. And so, Erin, what do you think happens? Why do most salespeople think that then it's their job to talk instead of, do the intake? What do you think happens?
I think we go into fight or flight mode. I'm actually doing a keynote about this right now, so I'm really into the brain. We are hitting that fear spot of our brain, the amygdala, and our body is like just processing, okay, I don't know what to do. I have nothing to say. I'm freaking out. So we freeze. And I think one thing in those situations, that always happens is if you can turn it to the person, if you can pretend that that person has a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important,
Yeah.
their 15 minutes will turn into to 20, will turn into 25, will turn into 30, because what do people love to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Themselves.
Themselves.
Yes.
We are a
So,
narcissistic society, aren't
yes.
we? Exactly.
Yes. So, leading with, and we always say it's leading with love. I always, before ever, and this is really woo woo, but I'm just going to share it. You know, we all walk into calls and Zooms and coming from different places in the world, right? My goal every time that I am interacting with somebody for the first time is just to make them feel joy.
Yeah.
I just want them to feel joy. That's really what my business is. We are the business of joy. So if I can make you feel something in those first 20 minutes, you're not going to remember a single word I said. You're going to remember how I made you feel.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I think that we all get into, sales situations, but when I think about the sales process, it really starts with getting to know people, building a network. And so I would love to hear how you approach bringing joy to networking, because I mean, as much as I've done it, when I'm entering a new room, it's still difficult. Even though I've been doing it over and over again for years and years and years, it is still challenging. So I don't know if you've got some ideas, or I know you've got some cool icebreakers on your website. Talk to us a little bit about how to use those skill sets when you're walking into a new room of people you
Yeah.
don't
My
know.
first, well, sorry, Kathy, I cut you
Just
off.
walking into a room where you don't know anybody at all.
Okay, my go-to like pro tip, just like off the cuff, and this has nothing to do with improv, go to the food station, especially if they have like dips. Just hang out there. Like I've met so many friends by like a charcuterie board.
Yeah, right.
So truly, and one of my clients slash long-term
Everybody
friends,
loves the dips. Everybody loves
yes,
the dips. Eh?
we laugh. Like we literally laugh. Like we met over squares of cheese. Like that is our friendship. So go where the people go if you don't know a single person. And then we do have icebreakers. So we have this list of 100 non-cheesy icebreakers, and I pulled it up because I wanted to share some. So really and truthfully, what the objective is to ask a question that is going to create conversation. I also like to have something on myself, like a statement necklace or a fun piece of jewelry. That's an easy icebreaker for somebody to talk to me about. So that's another just like pro tip. Go to the cheese, wear something that's fun.
What would be
Uh,
an example? Like, what would be an example of that, Erin?
so I have this giant kind of, our colors that improve it are white, black, and teal. I have this like giant teal necklace. And whenever I wear it, people ask me, where did you get that? And so that's one example. Or I'll wear really funky pants. I always try to have something that's a strategy. One of my girlfriends wears sequins, and she says sequins is a strategy because it's a conversation starter. Now that's making the other person come to you. But if you want to have a conversation with somebody else, have a couple of icebreakers in your back pocket that you can use. So here's sort of some of the things that we have on our icebreakers list. What's one thing you do outside of work that you really
Love
love
that
doing?
question. Love that.
Super easy, right? And like
Yeah.
people love to talk about their hobbies. And then it's, hey, I just read this. Here's another one that's not on the list, but we have share a book or podcast that has a big impact on you.
Yeah.
Ask people what they're watching on television.
It's an easy one. Yeah.
Like people love to talk about TV. Like we can get into it. I could talk about the show Nobody Wants This, which is a Netflix
Oh,
rom-com.
Yeah. It's
Okay,
fantastic. Right?
Kathy.
Yeah.
Okay,
loved it.
Kathy.
Right.
For days. Like,
Yes.
so, you can start right there and you're building a human connection. When I was in recruiting and I was doing business development, I would go to a lot of networking events for HR professionals. And who was at that event? All of my competitors. The staffing industry is large and it's saturated. The people that made me run away the fastest were my competitors because they didn't even know who I was. They would just walk up to me, shake my hand, give me a card. Hey, I'm such and such. How are you? And this is what I do. And here's my title. I'm going to run 7 directions that way. And I'm not even buying what you're selling because I'm a transaction to you. But if you make me feel like a human and you make me think about things that I enjoy, oh, I want to talk to you forever. And I want to build a relationship.
And Erin, I'm sure you find this, that what ends up happening is they go, oh, tell me about you. What do you do? What's going on? And all of a sudden, they allow you that space, probably in a deeper way where they're actually listening to what you say versus trying to get over and grab a drink and get some more dip, right?
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. I truly created this network of women in Chicago where I used to live for and Tom, you probably know these women, and Kathy, you probably do too, but I met them all at different networking events through like the Chamber of Commerce or one of the big event industry spaces, MPI. And I met them all at different times, but I brought them all together for a dinner because I thought, okay, this group has such great energy. We all do different things. And then what happened? That dinner turned into a dinner every other month.
Yeah.
Every single one of us used each other's business for some way, shape, or form. And it was all over a drink at the cocktail table or guacamole at the food station. It all
Right.
started that way. And genuinely caring about the human being, not the transaction that you want to happen.
Well, I think what, because I was a recipient of some of those conversations, I mean, literally, Erin has created a network of really incredible humans in the Chicago area and because she's always curious, it's now this space of, for the last 10 years, I've gotten to know so many of these people that, and not just what they do, but what they're passionate about,
Right.
which then creates a place where I'm trying to think how I can help this person. And then I'm introducing these people to somebody else. And of course, they'd want to be a part of that. And so, Erin, you're telling me, and I know that this is because I've read your book and I know who you are, but that really comes from the improv skill of just kind of building on the other person, right?
Yes. And did you
Yeah.
catch it there? Yes. And improv cannot happen alone. You
Hmm.
can do a monologue, but it gets boring. What is beautiful about an improv scene is I'm putting something out there, I'm bringing a brick, and then Kathy's coming in and she's adding something to the conversation. She's bringing a brick. And then Tom, you come in and bring another brick. And then we keep building this beautiful house together of communication. And what happens there is people feel seen and heard in that because no one is left out. And when people feel seen and heard, they want to show up. They want to do business with you. They want, they know, like, and trust you because you've taken the time to see and hear them. And so that makes up a great improv scene is 3 different people in an ensemble coming in and creating magic together using the philosophy of yes and. We're literally living an improv scene every single day because I had some idea of what you were going to ask me in this call, but I really don't know what's coming next. And so we're improvising even right now, and each one of us is bringing a different piece to the conversation. And so it's such a beautiful teaching tool, not only for sales, but for communication, for collaboration, for allowing people to really feel seen and like as if they belong, which is a huge, huge piece of company culture and what is forefront of HR leaders, chief culture officers, chief people officers' minds today. So it is such an empowering tool. And I truly, truly believe, and I'll get off my soapbox, that if everyone could take an improv class, that the world would be a better place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it made me think back to, I did have an employee that struggled, and She invested in improv, and it really was a game changer. It was an absolute game changer for her as a leader, as a communicator, as an effective presenter, of her ideas and concepts. So I kind of want to circle back to what I had said in the introduction about being in sort of ensemble selling situations. I feel like this happens a lot. It happens a lot virtually now, and I think a lot of times it goes really effectively, but sometimes it doesn't. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how to do you prepare for an ensemble presentation so that you've got a little bit of synergy to walk in the room with? Talk us a little bit through what should happen in a room with a group of people as they're, team selling.
Yes, I love that. So many acronyms just came to mind, so I'm gonna give them to you because I think they're helpful and they'll help you remember. The first one is KISS. Keep it simple, and I'm gonna say silly, not stupid. Okay, so it's have 3 bullets prepared per person, or maybe 1 bullet per person. We call it on stage the economy of words. So you're not allowing one person to take over and kind of guide the scene. But I, especially in an ensemble setting, or for what we do when I sell with my team, I have a tendency, shocker to no one, to overtalk. And I use an acronym for myself in that moment called WAIT. Why am I talking?
Mm. Mm.
And when you kind of have a loose outline, so, okay, Erin, you're going to say these first 3 bullets. Kathy's coming in the middle with these 3. Tom, you've got these last 3. And you allow some real communication to take place. I think sometimes in sales, if it feels too rehearsed, it doesn't feel genuine. So you allow those 3 bullets to just naturally come out, but you know who's going first, second, third. And you, as a person who is generally I'm going to speak for myself, a talker, take a back seat and allow the team to shine. Not only are they going to share in the collective success of the win of that sale and motivate themselves to do more, collectively as a leader, you're actually leading by example. You're being the leader you would want to be led by. And I have to literally sometimes like sit on my hands to make myself stop talking in sales conversations, but it works. And then you can let go. And the more you let go, the more free time you have to go on to work on your business, not in your business, and make more opportunities for everybody.
But Erin, one of the biggest challenges I see in sales calls is, oh, we've got 20 minutes. So I'll talk for 5, you talk for 5, you talk for 10. And then what happens is we're the ones who are doing all the talking and we aren't having the client talk. I'll see sales teams do this all the time where they think they're going to have a meeting with 3 people and 10 people show up.
Yeah.
And then they continue with the conversation. They don't even find why the other 7 people are even in that room. They don't know what those other people are doing. Erin, what are some things that you suggest people do to either prepare beforehand so that I at least kind of know why these people are in the room in the first place? Or if they show up in the room, how do we bring them into that conversation so it's a 2-way conversation and not just us blah, 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 showing up and throw up?
Such a good question. So, okay, a couple thoughts come to mind just from a preparation standpoint. I love to just have it in writing. Setting up a logistical template that you can send to a client before. This is a template you can literally keep in your drafts, copy it, paste. And one of the first questions is, who's in the room? What are their titles? And how are they functioning within this project?
Yeah.
So you know exactly who they are. You can look them up on LinkedIn. Tom, I know you're a big LinkedIn guy. Love the LinkedIn, and check out what they're up to. Check out companies they've worked at. Check out if you have any mutual connections. So the research on the upfront is huge. And if you don't do that ahead of time and you walk in the room and you are shocked by who is in the room, An easy thing that I love to do is just start off with a conversation, introduce who we are collectively, and say, hey, I'd like to go around the room, introduce yourself, and let's just all set an intention for our time together today. What's one word you want to get out of your time? Right there, we do this at the beginning of every workshop too, by the way. What it does is you're learning who they are. You might not in that moment know exactly how they function in the operation because unfortunately we didn't know, maybe we were blindsided for whatever reason. But by asking them, what is your intention? You're asking them, what can I give you for your time? What are you wanting from this? Because ultimately, when you can help them achieve their objective, the return on the objective, the ROO, is almost just as valuable as their ROI. Because guess what? You're usually working with a business, in my case, and most of us are B2B businesses. It's not their money, right? It's the business's money. So the return on their time, the return on their objective is more important to them than their money. Think about it that way. I'm sorry, I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm getting excited. But it's just people really value time. And so if time is a currency, how can you make the most of it for the people you're interacting with?
The other interesting thing, and I want to jump on what you said earlier, is I don't care what level of an organization you're at, you want to be heard. I don't care if you're the production person or if you're the CFO. Everybody wants to be heard. And if myself as a salesperson or my sales team is just talking at you, that you're going to lose an incredible opportunity for that person to be actively engaged in this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a brilliant tip. We have somebody on our team that is really great about towards the end of a meeting, trying to make sure that we're hearing what are the kind of the key takeaways from the meeting. So I think that's really a great way to engage the room and get, even the sellers as well as the prospective buyers sort of engaged in, what they really got from the meeting. But I love that, why are you here today? What do you need from this 1 hour session we have? I feel like I still want to just go back to when something is going south, because I think this is something the unexpected, the extemporaneous speaking skills where somebody is going down, a hole and I think they tend to ramble. When you're going down a hole, I think filling it with words tends to be the go-to. So how do you help bring somebody back? Like, come on back. You're in
Either yourself or somebody else,
exactly.
right?
Yes. Okay. So we actually have an entire workshop about this.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay.
this happens, right?
This must be an issue.
It's an issue. And then on the improv stage, we
think?
call it, we call it being in your head. So if you've ever seen a really bad improv show, which I'm sure people have, especially if you live in Chicago, what generally happens is the performer is not in the moment. They're literally thinking about 8 different things. They're wondering what the audience is thinking about them. They're not focused on their scene partner. So generally in a situation where we want to think more quickly on our feet, that's our workshop, thinking more quickly on your feet. We want to do 3 things: focus, trust, and if we can do that, we'll get out the targeted message. So the first piece is when you're going down that rabbit hole is refocusing. And I go back to that focus of 3 bullets, having those 3 bullets. And okay, I got through 1 and 2. Shoot, what was the third? Oh man, I'll come back to me, Kathy. Can you go next? But you're refocusing yourself. The second part is trust. And that trust is, first of all, no one is going to trust you unless you trust yourself. So having a tool in your back pocket to get yourself back into alignment or to get yourself to be more confident. One of the activities that we do in this, especially in this workshop, is we'll have an activity called word. So it's literally, I'll say 1, 2, 3, and on the count of 3, you have to say a word that comes to mind that is a positive word about yourself that makes you feel more confident. So let's say my word is confidence. Like, let's say that's the word that's going to bring me back into trusting myself. And I'm talking to you and I'm losing my train of thought. And in my mind, I just go confidence. And so then I take a breath and then I'm at point 3. Let me get out my targeted message. And so when you're able to bring yourself back into a place of alignment, you know your 3 bullets, you're able to get out that targeted message with ease, you're able to perform, which is ultimately what we're doing in sales, to your highest potential. The good thing about an ensemble, though, is if you falter, and especially in improv, we don't have lines, but if you miss your line, you got partners here who have your back. And that's something we say on the improv stage before every show: got your back, got your back, got your back. So, Kathy, if I'm talking and I'm rambling and you're like, Erin needs to just shut up, you could just pop in and say, Erin, I got you. And you could take over and you could help me out in that moment. That is the beauty of ensemble selling, is you have each other's backs. You all know the shared outcome in the project and you know exactly what you're hoping to achieve. But in a solo situation, you don't have anybody to have your back. So making sure you come in prepared and you focus in on those 3 bullets, you trust yourself, you do some activities beforehand. I love power posing to make you feel confident, to make you feel like you know what you're about to say, will always help you get back in your body and ultimately not in your head, is what you're trying to do.
I love it.
I
Thank you.
I'm reminded earlier in my career, I was with a salesperson and she was talking too much and she did something that I think is genius. She said, she went like this and she goes, I'm going to call a penalty on myself. I just recognized I've been talking for 5 minutes. I have to apologize. And I was like, wow. I mean, it was really cool. So she had to be thinking about that in her brain. She stopped herself and she refocused, and the customer loved it.
Loved
They
it.
loved it. Because they knew she was talking at them, and then she acknowledged it, and it opened the door to a really fantastic conversation after that.
Can I
Yeah.
jump in on that too? Because Simon Sinek, one of the most famous authors in the world, there's an entire YouTube video where he is talking and he stops in front of a room of thousands of people
Mm,
and he says, I just lost my train of thought.
wow.
Give me a
Simon
moment.
Sinek, right? Yeah.
Simon Sinek. And the
Yeah.
crowd starts clapping and encouraging him. And it's a beautiful reminder that we don't have to have the answers. We're never going to be perfect. It's okay to mess up. Fail fluent's your way to success.
Yeah.
And we're all human beings trying to figure this out. So allow yourself that grace as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about something that just happened recently, and sales is difficult. You get a lot of no's, you get a lot of no shows. I mean, it is a challenging role. And so when your team is struggling, I'm just curious, is there ways to use improv skill sets to help,
Mm.
motivate people in a different way? Talk a little bit about some motivation.
Especially as a leader, right? Like
Yeah,
Kathy, how do we use improv to lead others and our sales team? And yeah.
right.
Y'all, it's like literally you took all of our workshops and you just like combined them into this interview. And I love
That's
it so
great.
hard because this is our leadership workshop, and that is all about communication plus inspiration equals motivation. So the communication piece is all about having less transactional communication and more relatable and more personal conversation versus can you give me that document? Can you send me that spreadsheet? Caring about the human being. Once you get past that piece, I love this activity. We actually do an activity called Inspire, Don't Perspire. And it's where we use this idea of yes and to brainstorm. Let's say it's a holiday party. We're coming up to the holidays here. Every person is tasked with saying yes and. However, we give each person a playing card, like a deck of cards, ace to king. Ace is the lowest rank. King is the highest ranking card. No one knows what their card is. They're given the card face down, and on the count of 3, we have them turn it face up like this. So you know what my card is, but I have no clue. And now we're continuing to plan this party using yes and. However, we have to look to the highest ranking card to answer questions or to continue planning the party. So if I'm a 2, or an ace, and Tom, you're a king, Kathy, you're a queen. I'm going to you for all of the planning. I'm asking you the questions, and you're not talking to me at all because you're like, you're a low person on the totem pole. So then when we turn the cards over, people obviously know who they are. And it's also a funny moment because I like to give usually the most senior people the lowest ranking cards just
Of
so they can see
course.
how it feels.
How it feels, right?
And,
Yeah.
you know, and I ask, how many of you have been in a meeting like that this week? All hands go up.
Yeah.
And it's this beautiful moment when we realize that if we step back and we allow every voice in the room to be a part of the planning process, to put a little bit in on that sales deck, to add an idea, to share their input, and our idea is chosen and we win the proposal and we win the business, we can all collectively celebrate that success together. And if my idea isn't chosen, this is another activity. We use rock, paper, scissors to demonstrate this. So let's say Tom and I are playing rock, paper, scissors. The whole room plays at the same time. I win, he loses. Tom is now going to come behind me and support me as I play the next winner. So Kathy, you're the winner with your partner. Your partner's behind you, cheering you on. Tom, you're behind me, cheering me on. You and I play rock, paper, scissors till the entire room ends in this thunderdome of two people playing rock, paper, scissors with half the room behind me. Yeah, and the other half behind the room. And it's this beautiful microcosm of if your idea isn't chosen, you're still a part of the process and
Right.
you're still celebrating the success of your
That's
team.
cool. Tom, that reminds me a little bit about like your heads, tails in
Yeah, right.
at B2B or
Same
B
thing, right?
Bonneville. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, Erin, I think when we talk about our people, I used to work for somebody who on January 1st of every year, he would take a picture of what he was going to spend his commission check on. He'd put it in his truck, and his name was Rich Fenlock. And so I'd get in, if I was working with Rich, I'd get in his truck and I'd go, hey, what are we working towards this year? And one year it was a new truck. Next year it was a deck. Third year it was a hot tub. But it was fascinating to me to see that once I understood what his motivation was, what he wanted in his career and his job, all I had to do as a leader was just acknowledge that and support that, right?
Yes.
And what you're saying is it really is that space of us just, no matter what the title is, helping figure out how we get them involved in the process, right?
Yes. Were you
Yeah.
leading him? Were you his
Yeah,
leader?
yeah, I was.
Okay.
And it was so, and he made it easy for me because it was literally like, Rich, what are we working towards this year? Great. Let's get you a new truck. And it
Yes.
was, yeah.
That's
I,
awesome.
I love that, Tom, because one of the most effective CEOs I've ever seen does some type of a process. I'm going to get it, a little bit off because I'm going by memory recall, but he looks at somebody's both their personal and professional goals and really wants to understand what they want personally. And it's kind of that same inspiring, way of motivating somebody is that, of course, we all want to do well in our jobs. I would think nobody wakes up and says, I want to suck today. But, when we are getting at something that means something to somebody personally, I think that is highly motivating. So
Oh,
I
I
love
love it. I
that
love it.
idea.
I
Awesome.
wanted to ask a question because you've said it numerous times today, failure. And as Kathy mentioned, sales is really all about resiliency and failure and it's a horror. I mean, nobody likes it, but we know that yeses are great, but no's are great also.
Yeah.
Like that space of getting a no is actually okay. But what do you teach, Erin, in terms of helping people understand failure, what we learn from it, how we fail forward, how we fail beautifully? What would you say about that?
Yes. Y'all are just asking the best questions. So, this is another sort of overarching thesis statement that I use all the time. Failure plus the frequency equals the fundamentals of success.
A lot
And
of
when you
F's there, and
a lot
those
of
aren't
F
bad
words.
F's. Those aren't bad F words. Those
Yeah.
are
Those are we're doing F words at work here. Okay. And truly celebrating failure. I like to say fail yeah when you have tiny fails. I call them TFs. When you have the WTFs, right? Again, an acronym. The worst, terrifying failures in your life. I have a methodology I trademarked. No, I didn't. That's another failure on my part. But it's called Move On, and it helps you overcome those giant failures that just feel so overarching. Ultimately, in my mind, I actually came up with this whole concept in 2020 when I was just failing left and right. Kathy, that's when we met. And I call that period of time my three P's, or like the three PUs, because it was the stinkiest period of my life. But I was pivoting, people pleasing, which is a lifelong pattern that I'm recovering from. And I was in chronic pain. I actually developed chronic pain from the stress in my body. And I had it for a couple of years. And I call that my WTF moment, my worst terrifying failure, because everything was so hard. And I used this move on methodology to get myself out of it, to pull myself out of the funk. And now that's what I teach people to do, is to move on. And I could share it with you. You want me to share the acronym? Would that be helpful? Because it does,
Sure.
it gives, so I want you, can we visualize together? Can you think of, like, close your eyes for just a moment. And I just want you to think of your biggest, this feels icky, but just stay with me, your biggest fall flat on your face failure. So it could be one circumstance, or it could be a series of circumstances, like my three P's story. It could be, or I want you to think about where you're at in this time, if you're at home, if you're at work, who you're with. Just visualize that memory. And let's take that WTF. You can open your eyes now, and let's apply this methodology to it, okay? So I want you to think first about the M. The M is marinate. So it's not a steak. You can't marinate on your WTF overnight. You have to give it time to sit and to journal and to process. It could take weeks or months, sometimes years, but hopefully giving it space to really process is so important. The O in move on is to own it, to not place blame on someone else, and then to forgive yourself for your part, whatever your part is. And then the V is to verify the lessons that you learned. So, what are the 2 to 3 things you'll take out of that experience? And the E is evaluate your next step. So, your action plan to move forward. The O of move on is the because you're going to need to sit with the information you just processed, because there is going to be the next failure. And that's just a part of life, especially in sales. When we think about things that might not have gone our way, there's always a reason, and there's always something we can take from it, because without that no, we can't innovate. We can't try again. And so I call myself a failfluencer, because I really do believe that those hard times are meant to be there to help us move on, learn, and move forward.
Oh
You
my
know what's
gosh.
so interesting about that too is, like, I knew you in that period,
Yeah.
and to think that you were going through that struggle, because I mean, I would have never known that. And I think as humans, we are so hard on ourselves. We're so much harder on ourselves than people on the outside see that. And so, I mean, during that period, I'm like, oh my God, I remember that period being, oh, I want to be in Erin's universe, because she's a really powerful, badass woman, just like you are, Kathy. That space of, but I remember that, and for you to share, like, you were going through that, like, on the surface, on the outside, I would have never known that. And so I also think that that has to be some grace we have to give ourselves, is that space of, no matter how hard it is, people are still going to love you. They're still going to like you. And they probably are always rooting for you. It's just that space of giving yourself that grace because other people are going to give it for you, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't even know it, but I'm a fail fluencer, I guess, too. I had a whole sweatpants year, and not because I was working out. I just couldn't get out of them because I was too down. But from that has come a great innovation. And so I love you, sharing that story with us, Erin. I appreciate that authenticity. So I know we had talked a little bit about doing something, doing an actual interactive session that you were going to put Tom and I in the hot seat or the improv stage, so to speak. Are we going to jump into that? Can we do that, Tom? Are you up for
Yeah,
it?
let's go. Let's do some improv.
All right.
Let's do it. Okay, I feel like we've talked about yes and so much that we need to experience it. Tom did give you the rundown before, but I'm going to give it to our peeps listening
Okay.
because it is such a powerful activity. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to plan Red Cafe. We'll plan business as unusual's holiday party.
Nice.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. And we're going to come up with food, location, and some entertainment for this party. We're going to collectively share ideas. And here's what's going to happen. So everybody has their chat box ready. Does everybody have their chat box
Yeah.
open and ready? Okay. I'm going to privately message both of you at certain points. The goal is to share an idea, but after each idea, if Kathy shares an idea, Tom, you and I are going to say yes and share an idea. So anytime you want to share an idea, you have to say yes and to the person before you. Now, I am going to change direction on a couple of you. Well, there's only 3 of us, but you're going to feel a change of direction. If that happens, just go in that flow. Don't yes and, but if you weren't asked to do it, just stay with yes and we'll see how this plays out. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. I'm nervous. I'm
You
ready.
got it. You got it. Okay, I'll start just to get us going. Okay, yes, and we're gonna have this party on a cruise ship, and when everyone walks in, you get a puppy. Forgot to mention unlimited budget. Unlimited
Oh,
budget.
a puppy. Yeah. And you know what we should do? Because we're going to have puppies, we should get hot dogs from the Wiener Circle in Chicago, and we'll have hot dogs and puppies. That would be fantastic. That'll be the food.
Oh, yes. And I was thinking about a signature drink. I think we have to have something. Is it going to be a Barkalicious drink? I have no idea, but it's got to have some influence to the puppies and the food.
Yes.
So it's got to be.
Oh, well, yes, and I love that we also not only get hot dogs, dogs, but we're going to have um the Georgia Bulldogs
Right.
come and they're going to do instead of playing football, they're going to actually do a halftime show performance.
Yes, and we could get Beyonce because I think I either she went to Georgia, or she lived in Georgia, or she's performed in Georgia. We could have Beyonce come on the cruise and perform, and maybe write a song about this signature drink.
Well, yes. But if we're going to have Beyonce, we got to have Taylor Swift as well. So let's get Taylor Swift included. She could be,
Yeah, but
half
I
the
mean,
party.
listen, Kathy, but I mean, Taylor's pretty busy, and she's got that Eras tour going on. We might not be able to get her on in here. Yeah, and she's
Yes,
with
and Tom,
Travis.
I know some people who know her people, and I feel like it's going to be a go. We can also make
Yeah,
the
but
friendship
listen,
bracelets.
I know Travis Kelsey's probably not going to live with it. I mean, he wants her to be at the Monday Night Football game, and so that's, I mean, yeah.
Yes, but they're not doing that well anyway. So what's the difference that if she shows up or not? I think that we should try and go for Taylor.
No,
Yeah, but
Kathy,
maybe.
I actually kind of lean towards Tom here. I think Taylor is predictable. Why don't we go?
Let's go with Olivia Rodrigo or something. What would be, yeah, yes, but
No,
Olivia
not
Rodrigo is so much more speaking to the young audience.
no, not Olivia. What about like I don't know. We can get like a Prince cover band. I feel like that's probably more feasible.
Yeah, but Prince has been dead for 10 years. People don't even know who Prince is.
Oh, yes, Tom. I still love a little Prince, little Purple Rain.
I can't even believe I just said that. That's so against my, yeah, exactly.
Okay, give yourselves a round of applause. That was amazing. And Kathy, I just took the no because you were doing great yes anding. So I was like, I'm going to take the no. So here's what happened. We all were yes anding as directed. And then I gave Tom the direction to start saying yes, but. And after a little bit of time, I gave myself the direction to start saying no because what did it feel like? Let's start with when we were all three yes anding. What did that feel like?
It's
It's
let's get this
invigorating.
party going. Let's
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. Everybody's involved. Everybody's contributing. We're all being heard and listened to. It's really cool.
Yes.
And we had some really dumb ideas and we all were excited about it too.
They were great ideas, Kathy. Stop it.
Oh, the dumb great ideas. But then we had Tom come in and start squishing our Taylor Swift
Throwing some
dreams.
cold water on it.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom, a dream crusher.
Yes. A
Mhm.
fun vacuum. He sucked it all up. And then I came in, Kathy, and I was like, the squasher, McSquasherson. How was that when Tom was yes butting and I was no becausing everything? How did that feel?
I just took the whole, level of enthusiasm down.
You could see it in Kathy's
I
posture and
I
your
felt like I
facial.
just been like this. Yes, I
Your,
definitely.
all of a sudden, I saw it in your face. You were like, "Hey, wait a minute, what's going on?" Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah. And it was really interesting to me to be the no because person because generally that is not my go-to.
Yeah.
How was it for you to be the yes but, Tom?
Oh, I hate it. I can't. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so not me, and it becomes because I love contributing, and that's yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. It's such an interesting exercise. So imagine having a group of maybe 8 or 9 people doing this, and one person is the yes, but one person is the no because, and then the whole group starts to turn on these two people because they're like,
Kathy,
what?
I've watched this. I mean, we had a group of about 60 salespeople that were doing this exercise in small groups of 10. And the volume in the room in the yet when everybody was yes anding was through the roof. I mean, literally you can, and then the minute you found people yes butting, the volume started going down. Like Erin said, people are like, oh, hold on a minute. All of a sudden people started getting angry. And then you threw in a no once or twice and you're right. People, I want to stop it, but you could literally hear the sound of your dreams being crushed. I mean, it was really
Yeah.
interesting to
I
watch.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this in, obviously this hearing no's and these barriers that you have in sales conversations. It's really valid, but it really honestly made me think about collaboration. We're always thinking about, building onto other people's ideas on our team. And I thought, wow, just that change in language is so pivotal to getting people to add on, even if the puppy idea is absurd, that when you're adding on fun things, it starts to open up those, just the possibility, and you get to probably something pretty great at those types of
Absolutely.
conversations.
Kathy, can I jump on that too? Because here is an example of this. Yes, and can only not only be a great collaboration tool for brainstorming with your team prior to a sales call. When you get into that brainstorm, I always tell people appoint a chief yes and officer. It sounds cheesy, but generally the most positive person on your team. And that person's main job is just literally to make sure that everyone is yes anding. And then appoint another person, the scribe, and both people are still contributing. They're still yes anding. However, the scribe's job is to write down all the ideas that are coming to fruition. And then what you can do is you can go through and bucket all the ideas, even if they're pie in the sky, and you want to go pie in the sky, into themes. And then from those themes, you then can have everybody heads down vote so everybody's voice is heard, and then you can pick an idea. And that has helped me in associations where you have so many people coming from all different walks of life, plan conferences, plan events. It's literally helped in so many scenarios, from a behind the scenes perspective, but you can also incorporate that into working with clients. You can bring this to your clients and say, hey, we need to come up with a solution for X. Let's do this together and brainstorm with them in the sales
Yeah,
process.
I love it. I just love it. So
What a great conversation.
it really is. And I knew it was going to go fast. And it was just so fun and invigorating. It's later in the day for me here. And I thought, this is just the energy I need to get through a networking event that I'm going to right following this. So, Erin, thank you so much for joining us. Tom, or Erin, we want to put your information on the screen
Yes.
so that if somebody wants to bring you in to do a keynote or have you come do a workshop with them. I have to tell you that I saw one of your presentations and you talk about being in your blue pajamas suit, your satin pajamas, and it really inspired me. I personally bought my own satin red suit.
Nice.
I am totally, joining the crew of satin pajama wearers. So you'll see me in that suit at my next speaking event. But this is how you can get a hold of Erin. If you would put business as unusual in the subject line when you reach out, so she knows that it's coming from our conversation today. And then I want to always thank our sponsors. Tom, you've always been an incredible support system for Red Caffeine, the business as unusual. You bring great thinking to the table as well as some great guests. And then our friends at HR Source who do all things HR, really, really appreciate your time and sponsorship each year for business as unusual. And then lastly, I'm excited about our next guest, a longtime friend of mine, Christy Zulke. She's going to be talking about AI. She comes from the insight space. She's owned and sold a number of technology companies. She is just so interesting. She's just has a new startup going right now, but she's really going to talk about the practicality of using AI in your business. So we're going to talk about the different types of parts of your business that may be able to be more tech enabled with AI, but we're going to, start at the ground floor and talk about some of the inspirational trends that we're going to see in 2025. But there's going to be a lot of things that you can action right away in your business after this conversation. So join us on December 12th for that. And as I really want to say thank you, Tom. Thank you, Erin, for joining us today. It was just such a thrill to have you, and definitely want to continue the conversation and improving my improv skill sets. I look forward to, really hoping that people are using these types of strategies in their sales process and their communication process. I hope everybody got a lot of great ideas from today's conversation. And until next time, let's continue to challenge the usual. And we'll look to see you all in December. Thank you.